This is the Authentic Dating series brought to you by Ahmad and David,
where we explore what it takes to have a dating life you're excited about.
Hey guys, I'm David.
I'm Ahmad.
And this is the Authentic Dating series.
So on this podcast, our aim is to empower men to take control of their dating by teaching a complete understanding of how to create meaningful and passionate relationships that they desire. And we are known for leaving men feeling confident in who they are and showing up in a way that's naturally attractive.
Beautiful. Isn't that what we all want, right? We want some more beautiful relationships in our lives and great sex and great love and good fun. I'd like to start off by thanking the listeners. Like, we've had like a huge uptake in listeners this season, and probably down to some wonderful guests and some great content. And people have been sharing on Instagram. Big thank you to everyone who's been doing that. It warms our hearts, it fills our bellies, and it's substance for our validation that we live off. Just a big thank you, and like continue to share. If you share our post or you share the podcast with someone, let us know. We always repost if you post on Instagram and so forth. And we've been doing some really interesting things up on Instagram around social. So we're doing a challenge, like a 30-day challenge called 30 Days of Men Feeling. So we've just started that, and you can get involved at any time and do as much or as little as you want. And the only thing you need to do is to use the hashtag 30 Days of Men Feeling, and to tag us in it so we can repost it, and then just write a sentence, write a word, do some audio or record a video about how you're feeling in that moment. And if you search the hashtag, you can find a few posts by me and AJ as well. And you can get involved and listen, but we want as many people on board. We just want to change the narrative around men. You know, there's this narrative around men and how we're basic and how we don't feel and we don't express. And I think it's bullshit. I think it's lies, because I know enough men who I talk to who are fully expressed and want to talk and listen and feel. So we just want to do more of that, and you'll find us at Authentic Dating Series on Instagram. That's all where we really are these days, actually. You can find us on our website as well, www.authenticdatingseries.com.
Facebook didn't like us, so we're just on Instagram now.
Facebook shut us down. They shut our page down 3 or 4 times.
We're not sure why even.
And they won't tell us, and just talk to robots.
So we've given up. So the other thing as well to tell you guys about is since we began this podcast, we've been getting into doing more and more events. One of our favorite events is something that we co-host alongside our friend Kapil, and it's called Man Up, and it's all about uplifting conversations and talks for men. So this one that we're doing on the 26th of March is all about how to be men in the era of women. And what that's all about is about, how do we, what do men do, in this coming moment of empowerment for women. And we find there's a lot of men who have a lot of concern and fear and worry about their place in society. And actually what we believe in is that the best place for any man is to be in his power, and for women too. So that event is happening on the 26th of March. It's a Wednesday at 7 p.m. And you can find links to that on our Instagram. And also if you go to www.manuptalks.com, you'll find all the details there, and you can book tickets. The next event that we have happening on the 2nd of April is we're going to be doing a warm-up session for Single Boss,
as well as a talk.
So in this warm-up session, we're basically going to be doing like an interactive talk and coaching people through, how to network well and how to create deep and meaningful connections in a very short amount of time. And then, as David mentioned just then, we're also going to be giving a talk on the evening. So it's going to be a really fun and packed event. And the final event that I'm going to mention for today is one that we're doing with a company called Tailored Matched. And it's going to be our first ever co-hosted, I suppose, speed dating event. It's kind of speed dating-ish. It's a riff on speed dating. And the idea here is it's where the chemistry begins. And it's about creating a space for people to have more intimate conversations, not just the usual everyday small chit-chat, how's your hair, and the weather is great.
Because we're all bored of having kind of boring conversation, right? You get enough of that at work. You want to be meeting people and having like conversation that connects you, and conversation that makes you realize like, you like someone, or there's things in common and stuff like that, and not hiding behind kind of fearful kind of conversation. So we were involved in these events now, and we've got some amazing reception from the people who've been, especially Man Up as well, but Single Boss, the guys over there, we've been to their event quite a bit just to as friends. So some great events you can catch us at, and if you love what we talk about here, meeting us in person is even better.
Yeah, it's true. It is. We love talking. We love sharing what we know.
So without further ado, I like that phrase now. Without further ado, should we get into the episode? So today we're going to be talking about building confidence. Basically, it's something that from our research we do with men is a big thing for men, feeling like they're not confident enough to do what they want in their lives, but in particularly in the area of women, is they're not confident enough to do what they want with women, because that doesn't sound quite right, does it? Confident enough to kind of pursue women, or to lead the interactions of a woman, or to lead a relationship.
Take the necessary actions.
Take the necessary actions. That's what I was trying to say. I was struggling
to lead and
to lead and to take them to places.
But essentially, one of the biggest gripes that we found and has formed the basis of a lot of our podcast episodes in this season is the research that we garnered from the men that we interviewed. And a big thing that came up was lacking self-confidence. And so today we're going to tackle that topic, and I think it's going to be very interesting, because we're not going to be, as far as I'm aware, we're not going to be talking about stuff that's usually spoken about when it comes to confidence. And we have a quite a unique take on what confidence is and isn't. And actually, in fact, we're going to start off with a definition.
Yes, I think it's important to know what confidence is, because I think actually confidence is the word's misused and misunderstood. So get your pens and pads out, people.
Or just get a dictionary and read along.
And actually read along with the definition, because when you really get the definition in your head, you really realize that maybe your whole idea around confidence is skewed or incorrect. And something that I think gets lost today in just, I think, all the socializing and social media is the meaning of words and what they actually mean, as opposed to what we'd like them to mean or what we think they mean. And so it's important to sometimes whip out your dictionary. Whip out your dictionary. Could have said that slower. Just whipping out your dictionary then.
Whip out your dictionary and have a look. Never be afraid to whip out your dictionary in front of a woman and have a look at the words. So self-confidence is a feeling of trust in one's abilities, qualities, and judgment. And if I just tap on, I put it on airplane mode, so let's just have a gander. What does confidence on its own stand for? Full definition. Confidence. Same thing. The feeling or belief that one can have faith in or rely on someone or something. So let me say that again. Confidence on its own, without self-confidence, is the feeling or belief that one can have faith in or on someone or something. So that's a general definition of confidence.
And I think that's interesting there, is because one can have the feeling. It's not necessarily one knows that one can do something. It's just if you have a little feeling or a little belief that one can do something. I think that's the really important part there. Is you don't need to know you can do something. You just have to know have a feeling that you can do something.
Yeah, and self-confidence was the same, right? A feeling of trust in one's ability.
Feeling.
It's always a feeling.
Not a knowing.
And an interesting thing as well is that when we were looking up, because as Dave mentioned, we're doing this 30 Days of Men Feeling Challenge, #, and we were looking up the key emotions that exist, and there isn't an emotion for confidence or courage. There's emotion for optimism, or a feeling for optimism, but not for courage. And often we say, we're feeling confident, but it's not. We could say we're feeling confident, but actually it's not a fundamental feeling. I think the fundamental feelings are
things like love, joy, fear, anger, sadness, and surprise, actually.
Surprise. And confidence doesn't come into one of those. Like it's more of a concept, confidence. Hence it's the feeling of trust in one's abilities. So what we want to go into then is, firstly, because we're talking about self-confidence, and so what we want to go is, firstly, that first section was just all about, let's just define it, right? And so what else we're going to talk about here is the next thing is what confidence isn't, or what self-confidence isn't. And then we're going to move into a key definition. So let's just say step 1 here was definition of the standard definition. Step 2 is what confidence isn't, but often we misconstrue it as being. And then 3 is what we would define confidence as being. In fact, I would define this key, what we are about to find out in about 2 points time, is what I would call, and I used to call super confidence, because it's like, people talk about being confident, and this is like a whole nother level. You have to really have big balls.
This is like Superman confidence.
Yeah, to play at this level of confidence. You ready? You better be ready, listeners, to have some big balls.
Yeah, get your balls out.
Yeah, get your balls out next to your dictionary. So yeah, get that balls down into the dictionary.
Oh shit, we're funny sometimes.
Yeah, there's a lot of balls and dick jokes today. So more than any other episode, 95% more than any other episode. And then finally, we're going to talk about confidence in action, but with specifically what we cover in the next couple of points. So what confidence isn't, right? And the first thing I want to say, because what jumped to my mind when we were thinking through this topic, is the classic military man or knight in white armor, where he's got the muscles, he's got the look, he's got the steely blue eyes and blonde hair probably as well while he's at it. But just that typical classical picture of masculine man, macho masculine man.
You're looking back at the Rambos, or who was the evil character? One of the
Skeletor.
No, it was in oh god, what's that boxing movie?
Baywatch.
No, the one with I can't remember now. Rocky.
Oh yeah,
and it's one of the
German dude.
Yeah, that's the kind of I'm thinking Guile from Street Fighter 2. That's Top Gun. Guy like that. That's
any of the characters from Street Fighter.
Yeah, they assume that they have confidence in everything they do, but actually that's not really what confidence is, because if you look a bit more closely at the world and you look at the men who you can truly say are confident. You can look at footballers, for instance, who some are very confident men, but actually they don't have confidence in every area of their life. When they have to talk on the microphone, they don't seem too confident then, do they? And I think one of my points under this one is people have confidence in one area of their life, they don't necessarily have confidence in every area of their life.
Yeah, it's true. And it's this idea of this all-powerful, unbeatable character. And so my mind more and more these days goes back to James Bond, because that's growing up, he was the epitome of the most confident man in the world. He could pretty much drive any vehicle, and he could fight any man. He could take on any villain. He could fire any weapon. Basically anything that was required, he could do.
Yes,
he knew how to do it. He could open any bra in the world. Any bra.
Any bra.
Any bra. Doesn't matter if it was French, Italian made. I've
had some tricky ones sometimes. Have you ever had those front opening bras?
Oh yeah, you all behind the back.
Yeah. You kind of roll. You kind of stroke your hand across the back of the bra, and you realize there's nothing there, and you're like, But the first time that happens, you're deeply confused.
Yeah. We do a whole nother episode on just the first one.
But when you come across those front opening bras, what's even more magical, when you meet a girl and you realize there's a front opening bar and you know how to do it. She's like, wow. And in my case, it's been you know how to do that. You're like,
yeah.
Completely irrelevant to the episode.
Yeah. Confidence. Confidence. Yeah, because so David has mentioned, and I've mentioned it once, and there's this hashtag 30-day men feel challenge, and it's all about men opening up and sharing their emotions. And why I'm mentioning this now is after the bra comment, but it's more after the what confidence isn't, is because men opening up and sharing themselves is another level of confidence. You have to have some balls to be able to go, this is just how I feel, and I don't care how the world views me for saying this is the experience of how I'm feeling. And
then what's more interesting about that is, to do that, you don't have to know you can do it. You just have to have the feeling that you can do it. There's nothing, when
You literally need to have the feeling.
you
and
literally
then do
just
it.
have to have the feeling and go, oh, I can post a video or I can write a sentence and say how I'm feeling. It takes no more than just that.
Yeah, and I mean, today was actually the first day, even though this podcast is going to go out a week later. Today was the first day that we did the challenge, and I know for myself, like, I find it easy sharing stuff openly, but it's still, I was still thinking about it for an hour or two before I actually sat down and did it. Like, not that I was resisting it massively. There was other things to do, like tidy up and shower, but like it was on my mind, and I was like, that's very interesting. I know I can do this, but already my mind is like, yeah, but what are you going to say, fam?
Yeah, I had that. What are you going to say? Yeah. At one point I was like, what am I going to wear? Where am I going to film it?
Yeah, I had a shower before I did mine.
No, I just got out of bed, made some tea and sat and did it. Yeah, pretty much where I'm sitting.
If you haven't seen the video, you probably will miss it by now, but David's topless.
Oh no, it'd be a video. It should be on my personal Instagram.
But David is topless and he's sharing his emotions. I thought it was a play on masculinity.
I kind of was.
Yeah.
But I think there's that thing, isn't it? Is that that's confidence is going, I can just do this thing, or I think I might be able to do this thing.
Yeah.
And I believe that we can think that we could do anything.
Yeah. I mean, Elon Musk is trying to get us to Mars, bro. Yeah. So, I mean, and that is...
Yeah. I feel that one day I could go to space.
Yeah, that's actually more doable now than ever before, thanks to Elon Musk. Yeah. But yeah, so vulnerability, the idea of like, essentially for most people would be like the idea of being weak, is actually a great sign of strength when sharing one's emotions and how one really feels, and when one is opening themselves up to exposure. So it's like if ever you see like fighters, or even there's a particular animal where they show their neck in defiance because they're just saying like, this is the weakest part of me, and I'm showing you because I'm like, hey buddy, I'm scared of you.
Yeah,
it's like that. And that's what vulnerability is, and so that takes us into the next point, which is vulnerability is, and this is where I was saying you need to have big balls. Vulnerability is true confidence. Yeah. It's the ability to act in spite of fear. It's like confidence isn't the lack of fear or not sensing any fear. You need fear. Fear is very healthy. I just realized I said that with an F. Fear is very healthy. You need a certain amount of fear in your life. Otherwise, you're just going to fall off a cliff edge or go and stick your head inside of a tiger.
Yeah, you would probably die. The fear is actually quite a natural thing, but the problem we live in the world now is that we had this massive fear over things that biologically are not actually dangerous to us. Like you said, you have to go through fear. You have to taking fear through action is vulnerability. No, sorry, taking action even though there's fear is true vulnerability. And I think it's worth really sitting with that for a second, because that's when you are willing to say, I am willing to do this thing, even though it may not be perfect. It may not go the way I want it to, but I'm going to do it because I want it to go the way I want it to. Through all the fear you're going to have, you still take action in the knowing that it won't be perfect. And that, because in that you're allowing yourself to move towards the thing that you want. Like, let's bring this to a really grounding example. Let's talk about commitment. Fear of commitment is a serious thing for men and women in the world. Now, if you just avoid commitment, it doesn't necessarily mean that you want to commit, you want a girlfriend or you want a boyfriend, and avoiding the commitment doesn't get you anywhere nearer to your goal. All it does is put a distance between you and your goal and make you unhappy, to be honest, right? So there's a thing you want and going, I'm too afraid to actually have the thing I want, but actually then going, you know what, I'm going to commit. Is yourself almost like willing yourself to go, do you know what? I'm willing to allow myself to be hurt, to be rejected, to it not to go well, but I'm also allowing it to go really fucking well and me meet someone who I really love and can really commit myself to.
So I think what Dave was talking about there is actually being vulnerable to all aspects, right? Like not just a failure of something. And when you can, it's like, when you can be vulnerable, because I would also say, like, from, just experience of being a human, having these fears and doubts and worries, it's like, it's okay to want something and fear it and then still go for it, exactly. like commitment, like you just said, commitment.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we've both learned over time, is like, okay, and I want this, and I still fear it, but I think because of our own personal experiences, we're able to go, oh, this fear is no longer serving us, and so we can step into it. But actually, I feel this is a good time for me to mention as well, we still do fear things in our lives. We're not 100%, constantly running, head first into every fucking fear that we've ever had and smashing it. No, I'm definitely not. I don't know about Dave, but I'm definitely.
I can tell you. I wanted to say a quote actually I got from a podcast I listened to, Man Talks, which I highly recommend as a podcast to listen to. It's one of my favorites out there right now. He's really putting out some great content. Hopefully we'll get him on the podcast actually in the next few months. Without vulnerability, there isn't courage. Without courage, there isn't vulnerability. And I think that's a really, it's a really important thing to remember. It's like trying to be perfect without being vulnerable doesn't happen. It can't happen. And I've completely forgot what I was going to say. What were you saying before, AJ?
I was going to just share about why we're still scared.
Oh, I was going to give you an instance of where I'm scared, actually. I've been reaching out to different men who on Instagram to ask them to participate in the 30 days of men feeling. And one of my things is I don't like people saying no to me. I don't like to make a request and for someone to say no. Because I take it, I'm like, oh, that means that I'm worthless and what I'm doing is worthless and they shouldn't listen to me. And there's times where I've gone to type out the message and I'm like hands wobbling and then I go send. And then I've had to do that maybe 20 or 30 times because I've asked that many people. And some of them haven't come back to me. Some have, some haven't. And that's me being vulnerable because I'm putting myself out there in a way that someone could just ignore me. Someone can just say no. And it's realizing that it's not as bad as I think it's going to be until I do it. And it's still not that bad. We often think that the kind of rejection we're going to receive is going to be horrendous and we're going to be ridiculed. But in real life, it's actually very minor and almost unnoticeable. And you forget about it the next day.
Yeah, that's a very good example because it does crop up in everyday life. And I think just a quick one from my life at the moment is I know that there's something that I've actually done once before, which is stand-up comedy. Yeah. And it's become another, let's say, a feature in my psyche, in my mind of something that I would love to get into on a more serious level. Or at least, when I say serious, at least on a more regular level. And it's not something that I've just jumped at. I'm aware, and at the moment, I'm circling it, looking at it and spending some time writing about it. And then just noticing constantly other people doing it or whatever's happening. It's in my periphery constantly. And so it's just fears, we have them, and there's things that we're just even if we love to do them, but at the same time, even David and I would just say we still have our fears and we still don't always smash through them. But it's just actually being aware though that actually what are we talking about here? It's in David's case, he's being vulnerable and just sending the message. In my case, it would be eventually being vulnerable and surrendering to the fear of comedy and just doing it, right? Yeah. So which leads me to the next point of vulnerability in action. And I know so obviously we're a dating podcast and right now we've been talking a lot about this stuff in general, but we're going to get into some more specifics here. Dave had some key points as well around dating, how this impacts dating. So the first thing I want to say is the key thing about vulnerability is it's not just about being vulnerable to things that you fear, but it's also about being vulnerable to what you would love to happen. So in David's example, he's wanting to build the network. He's wanting to reach out to people and get some interesting people on the podcast. That's what he would love to happen. What he's concerned about is, people rejecting him or not liking whatever, just not liking what we're doing. But nonetheless, that doesn't stop him from vulnerably expressing and so sending the messages out is not what he would love. That's not what he would love, but it's what the result of the messages would do, right? So the first step is actually know what you would love. And you know what? I think that's actually sometimes harder than we give that sort of thing credit for because we often get so bogged down with other people's words about this is possible or not possible or whatever, right? And so knowing what you would love, but let's assume you know what you would love, right? In my case, we're talking about comedy. And in general, is there something else in your life?
What would I love? I don't know. Well, that's a very broad question for me right now. What would I love right now?
Something that perhaps is there for you that you're not currently undertaking, or you are perhaps?
Yeah, I feel like I would love to run really great events, like sold out, 100 people events.
Okay, well, we've got to 60. So,
yeah.
So
we're en route.
40 more when we're there. Yeah. Yeah, cool. So the next thing in terms of vulnerability in action is like, okay, well, if what I would love, actually, let's use the dating scenario, because you had some stuff that you wanted to say around dating. So let's go back to that. So let's go. Yeah. So what would you love? And obviously, in this case, listeners.
Yeah, like if not for me, because I'm currently in a relationship.
And she'll be listening to this. So I wonder if that will make the final edits of this episode.
So, no, if you are dating, for instance, and you want to meet some women, right? That's generally most people's problems are meeting women, staying with the women, and ending things with the women. That's what I find the guys are struggling with, right? So say you're trying to meet more women.
Meet, stay, and end.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. 3 stages. The stay bit is usually a bigger problem. But meeting women, it's like, okay, so you have to vulnerably take action. Your action is your vulnerability, right?
Yeah.
Because you need to either... We're going to discount online dating because I don't believe there's any vulnerability in there, really. You're going to have to go and... Deep. Tinder, dead. Cancel that. So you got to go in and meet some. You got to go to a bar. You got to go to a club. You got to go to a coffee shop. You got to go to a meetup or an event, and you have to physically move yourself from where you are to where the said woman is you want to talk to. There's a vulnerability in your action there, because there's all manner of things that can occur. She could, fly off into the sky like Superwoman. No, she could not want to talk to you. She could be busy. She could ignore you. She could also be amazingly happy that you've spoken to her and have, wonderful conversation with you. All manner of things can occur. And there's a vulnerability in there because you don't know what's going to happen. There's an unknown. There's an unknown that you cannot control.
Yeah. So then it's like, so what's your next action? It's like you're saying about meeting someone, and it's like, okay, they're there.
Yeah.
And you want to meet, what's your next action? And obviously in most cases, if you're right there in front of someone, then vulnerability in action is actually doing the thing, right? It's like, what I would love to talk to her and actually then go and talk to her.
Yeah.
And one of the things we said in the preamble is like, actually for some people, that might not be the next step, because there's a lot of guys that we come across, even some guys that we're coaching now, that they're not very confident or comfortable. I don't know if confident is the right word sometimes, because we're actually learning that sometimes these guys already have it in them, but they just weren't aware.
It's almost the belief, isn't it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the feeling that they could do it.
They don't have the feeling they can do it.
Yeah.
So in those cases, it's like, okay, what's your next step? And I was saying, say for instance, you are in a place and there's some women that you want to talk to, and you don't want to go over, which I highly recommend that you actually do. There's other things. You could catch eye contact, for instance. You can smile. Like I'd even say, some small talk, or find yourself in the vicinity. So when the opportunity to talk comes up, it comes up very easily and naturally. Yeah. But if you don't take any of these actions and you just stay where you are, and far away from where the women are, you're never going to get to your end result.
Well, actually, so what I would define this particular point that Dave was talking about is we've discussed point 1, which is like knowing what you would love. Then 2 here would be like, what is your next action? And in this case, David's painting the scenario of you're in a club or bar and the woman's in front of you and you go over and talk. But a whole nother scenario would be like, okay, what's your current reality? Like, what is the current truth of your situation? And this is very important because, there was a point in time where the current situation for me and David was vastly different, where David had lots of experience and positive responses from women. And I was very, very nervous and felt like I didn't have much experience. And so the current realities of our two situations, despite both perhaps being in a bar, would be vastly different. Where David would be like, go over and talk to her. Like, what else? What is there possibly to lose?
I didn't always feel that way though.
Yeah, no, sure. But in general, it was like, I've done this many times before and I'm nervous, but, generally I've survived each and every previous one. Whereas for anyone who was in a similar boat to me back then, or that sort of vibe, would be like, fuck me, I'm never doing that. Like, there's no way in hell would I ever put myself up for that level of embarrassment. A bit like the response we had from some guys that we contacted about the 30 days feeling there's no way in hell.
Yeah, there's a few people,
that,
no names, no shames, who
who you are,
who are out there talking about men opening up and connecting, and we said, hey, do you want to do this? And they're like, no.
Yeah. But anyway, it's the feeling of fear, right? It's the fear, and actually, this is a point where we would say as well, and actually this is one of the reasons, I mean, I got coaching when I was feeling really fucking shit at this stuff, and it made a huge difference. I did various different levels of coaching, like with some different companies and whatever, and I'm grateful that I did, because each one taught me something, and eventually I started teaching because I realized I actually got a lot better, right? So yeah, in certain cases, if you're completely stuck, or you're feeling in vast contrast to what David just painted there, you're feeling like, fuck, I could never do that, then perhaps your best bet is either one, like speaking to a therapist, I'm going to say with an F again, so it's not a therapist, about your fears or whatever's coming up for you. And the other one is actually, speaking to someone a bit more niche, like a dating coach or someone along those lines. And it's something that we currently offer. So if it's something that you're interested in, you can get in touch with us about that.
Yeah, I think I'd say also from my part, like I had coaching in my dating when it wasn't like, in comparison to other people, it wasn't in dire straits, but it was just something I wanted to improve. Like I think
you wanted to improve the quality of
I think coaching is something we look at sometimes and go, oh, I don't need that until I'm in the direst position. But every person you see on TV who is smashing life, who you think is smashing life, has got a coach. Right now, multiple coaches, or they've had coaches in the past, because actually that's how you step up.
Yeah.
That's how you up your levels in life. You get someone else to come in and look at your life from the outside and help you move forward.
Yeah, basically, because life generally boils down to the actions you're taking, right? That's what gives you the results. But if initially you can't take the direct actions that would give you the direct results, then you need to figure out what your bullshit reasons are.
Yeah.
And I say bullshit because they're in your head, and eventually one day you'll get over them, and then you'll do the actions and you'll be fine.
Yeah. So I'd say, like, and a coach will help you do things that you're scared of. They'll push you to do these things. And I know you hear me say push you to do things you're scared of, and you think, oh my God, I don't want to do those things. But really you do.
Well, I would also have to throw in that a good coach would also be able to motivate you in a way that it doesn't necessarily always feel like pushing, and sometimes even allows you to be resourceful in your own way.
Yeah, exactly.
So, just to give an example of a client that we've been working with, and he was really concerned about not being able to speak to women and how he didn't have much experience. But through our coaching, and I remember specifically David having a really cool conversation with him around how he already does this. Like you basically got him to understand that he's actually already been doing this, and he's just been not relating it to himself. Like the backstory is he'd been doing it for his friends, and he'd been introducing friends, but nonetheless,
he'd been doing it. Yeah,
going up to women and talking to them and entertaining them and having fun and all that stuff. So in terms of communicating, he had it within him.
Yeah.
So there wasn't, David didn't push him. He just made him realize that he was within him all the time. And actually, I think a lot of men fall into that camp where they underestimate what they already know.
Yeah, they've already got it there. They've been doing it, but they just don't take action in particular instances because there's a belief that they don't have it. And it's very interesting because you see it, and we just through a few sessions, we've been able to get to that core thing, and it's been transformative, if I use his own words.
Yeah, true. So then the final thing in this terms of final step in vulnerability and action is keep taking the steps towards what you'd love. And it's as simple as that. It's like, so in my case with the comedy, it'd be like, at the moment I'm sitting down and I'm writing my comedy, and it might be slow going. I may not give it as much attention as I could. Or should, or whatever, that would get me there faster. But essentially, the more I sit down and write, the more content I will have. And then, then at some point I'll be like, okay, I need to perform. And the more I do that, then the more I'll get that, and so on and so forth, you know. And I could always get myself a mentor or a coach or do a course. And I have looked at some of these things as well. And it's just like, so it's just a point as a fact of like, it's just how things are done. But the first step is you have to know what you would love. And in terms of a relationship, like for some men, they erroneously think that what they want to do is bed like 100 girls.
Yeah.
And then for some men, what they erroneously think is that what they want to settle down. And so you need to really figure out for yourself, like right now in this reality, like what's true for you. Because for some people, it is true that they should go and experiment and explore and find out who they are through multiple sexual experiences. For other men, it's true that they should try something more monogamous and settle down, or some other variation of dating that we have available these days.
You said a lot there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it is a case of, with the relationship stuff is, from someone who's gone out there and, slept with a good number of women, whatever a good number means, and kind of on the other side and say, like, I look back at a lot of it now it was validation for a lot of the time. Just kind of being like, oh, this is what men do, so this is what I'm going to do. And I think a lot of guys think, oh, I want to be the man. I want to, I want that thing that I didn't have, which was being able to be very good with women. And it's just another thing that can become a curse and be damaging to you. So really looking at what you want is an important one. And I'd say another point for me is around what you tell yourself about your confidence. Because we have a habit of going, oh, I can't do X because I'm not confident, or I'm not confident, or when I have the confidence, I'll do X. And in fact, it's like the more you tell yourself that, the further away you'll be from doing that thing. Because words have a resonance, they have a power, and whatever you hear a lot gets supplanted in your subconscious, or even in your conscious. It just planted in there and starts to be replayed back to you. So just mind what you say to yourself, in environments you're in, what people are saying to you. Like if you're around people telling you you're not confident, you might need to remove yourself from those sorts of people and find a new group of friends. Because, if your friends aren't the sort of people that are trying to lift you up in the world, you need to very question why these people are your friends.
Yeah, and just to add to David's point there, I think that's a sort of a myth, like in a not a negative myth, but like a myth of life in general that I've heard since I was young, a mythology sort of thing, like a story, a way of being. And I must say, like the older you get, like genuinely for me, like I'm now 35, turning 36 this year, it's like it becomes truer. Like with time, I find all of these sayings, adages become truer. So if your friends around you are just like, yeah, just chill, it's cool, like, and that's been the predominant thing, the older you get, that's not going to magically fucking change. Like you have to magically fucking change. Like it gets harder to do once you've grown your roots into that society. And so it's really important, like, that you know what it is that you want for yourself and that you want to experience. And there's only one way you can do that, and it's by being able to feel into your life and go, this is what I want. Because otherwise your life will be dictated to you by those around people.
Yeah, and that's some of the work we've been doing with our coaching clients, is actually helping them to feel. And that's been, I'm really blown away by some of the work we're doing now. I'm actually, part of me is looking into the future and really looking forward of what we'll be able to be doing with our coaching in, like, say, like 6 months or so. But learning to just feel and how and work out what it is you want and what you're telling yourself about yourself, because these things make such a difference. We think, oh, a few words here and there, but it's like, I was reading a statistic recently. It's like 85% of our thoughts are exactly the same as the thoughts we had the day before. Yeah. So 85% of what you think is exactly the same every single day.
Even the words, I think, that we say every day. It's weird, but when
we have a very small vocabulary, isn't it? I've seen something about this.
Yeah. So you actually pay attention to if you work in an office or you see similar people every day. Pay attention to what you find yourself saying, and it's actually, fuck, you do say the same fucking shit every day.
To start saying something new to yourself, wake up, have some gratitude about your life, think about something great you're going to do. I've got a little diary I use. It's called the 6-minute diary. And I just write in it every morning, and it literally takes 3 minutes in the morning, 3 minutes in the evening. And I've actually felt a difference when I do it and I don't do it. It's and it takes no time at all. These small things make a huge difference in our life, especially to how you feel about yourself, which ultimately is your self-esteem, your self-worth, and your self-confidence.
Yeah. So the final thing I want to say on all of this self-confidence thing, just to wrap this up, is something that Dave and I both came across as a creative principle in some of the work that we've studied. And it's quite simple. It's something you would have all heard of if you've ever read or done any mathematics, and it's the Fibonacci sequence. And the reason why I'm mentioning this and, what's its relation to self-confidence is the Fibonacci sequence is quite interesting because it's a naturally occurring number. And it's something that we find as a mathematical principle in terms of creation. And so for those who don't know, or even those who do, like Fibonacci sequence starts with 0, and then it's 1, and then it's 1, and then it's 2, and then it's 3, and then it's 5, and then it's 8 and 13, and so on and so forth. And the way that it works is it's like a combination of the two numbers that preceded it, right? So 0, 1, 1, 2, and so on and so forth. So, and it's really interesting when you look at creations, and I say creation as in any activity that we're creating something. So when David and I created this podcast, it was a creation. So when we created this podcast, we put content out and we had some followers. It wasn't like huge success or whatever, but we had, and even with our Instagram, same thing, right? And over time, though, the results that come in is just huge compared to what we were achieving before. And what I mean by that is like the connections, the people we've met, the opportunities that we've had are massive. Even the coaching, it's all been it's not linear, but it's been progressive. Yeah. And it all started with us sitting down, recording podcasts.
Yeah, in exactly this place. It's I put it down into like take small, consistent action. Yeah. That's what we've done. We've taken small, consistent action. Like when we coach people in their dating, it's small, consistent action. I give you action points. When we used to do boot camps and workshops, that would be 3 days of consistent action. You'd be going out, spending hours out on the streets and bars and clubs. You'd be taking consistent action, and that would build to something almighty. It's a bit like building a house. Yeah. If you keep putting down a brick every day or 2 bricks every few hours, those 2 bricks aren't a massive deal. But by the end of a year, you've got a whole house, And it's very easy to think, oh, there's no point putting the bricks down. It's not going to do anything. But actually, it's going to make a huge difference. So when you're dating, for instance, it might be, working on yourself, working on your ability to communicate, working on your ability to express who you are, talking to more people, making some new friends, like going to some events alone. These sorts of small I've lost my words. Consistent actions make a huge difference. Like I will say that last year, around Valentine's Day, actually, I was single and I had a date that night and it got cancelled. And I had a choice. I could have gone home alone and sat at home, or I could have gone to this dating event, which is called Shush, which is a really amazing event. It's run by a girl called Iona now. And I went to the dating event. And I met some really amazing women. I met one girl who I dated for a number of months after that. Now, that was just a small action that I took, going to the event alone. I was nervous. I was scared. I was all sorts of things. I just went there alone and I just talked to some people and I kept talking to people and I participated in the games. I tried to enjoy it. And out of that came something that was really amazing and really fun and enjoyable, but it was that small action of decision of go home alone or go to a dating event.
Yeah. And like David said, the small actions, they build up and you don't even know where it'll take you because it's progressive. So it has that sort of impact. So yeah, that's this episode. Was there anything else you wanted to say, Dave?
Yeah, I also probably wanted to say is share about how you feel about your confidence of other people. Because I think this is something we often look at other people and go, oh my God, he's so confident. You might listen to us and go, oh, these guys are so confident. They know everything. And I tell you what, you spend an hour with us and you realize we're just fucking human beings, man. We're scared of shit. We're scared to do the smallest things sometimes. That we just are willing to say it because we know that it's totally fine and okay, and everyone feels that way. Yeah. And we help other people by communicating that as well.
Yeah. Cool. So a quick recap, because we covered a lot, but actually it was only in 4 or 5 different sections. So the first thing we spoke about was the definition, the dictionary definition of self-confidence. And then we looked at what confidence isn't. We described what that was. And then we in the next section after that, let's call that C, we described what we believe is true confidence, or what I used to call super confidence, which is vulnerability.
I like super confidence.
Yeah. And then D was vulnerability in action. And we spoke, and that's where we kind of went a bit more into the details of like, 1, knowing what you would love. 2, what's your next action, and acknowledging your current reality before deciding that. And then 3, keep taking steps towards what you would love, and the importance of considering therapy or coaching if you're really stuck with taking the obvious actions. And then the final thing we just covered just then was about the Fibonacci sequence and the importance of taking small steps. And then David also
talked about discussing how you feel about your confidence of other people to get perspective.
Yeah, sharing. So yeah, that was pretty cool actually. That was a really interesting episode. I really like that.
Yeah, so we covered a lot of things there. Yeah. And yeah, as always, we've gone over a lot of things. If you're really interested in the kind of vulnerability side and creating connection, we've got an episode that we did with Ben Bidwell, the Naked Professor, which was, I think it was the second episode we put out this season. If I'm right, it's 39, which was the key to deep and meaningful connections. We go into a lot of detail about that as well. And then the other week we put out a really good episode with Hayley Quinn, which is jam-packed with knowledge. Like I re-listened to that episode and I was taking notes in my own life.
Yeah. Oh wow.
But yeah, so if you want to go back and listen to some of those, and we've also got some great episodes from season 1 about all manner of amazing things, if I'm honest.
Yeah. And as always, you can find us on Instagram. I was just going to say, well, we're doing so much more like actions and activities on Instagram now. It's a great place to catch us. We often answer dating questions, like Ask Me Anythings, and now we're doing this hashtag challenge, which is going to be going on for the next 30 days. It's going to end on
I think it's the 10th of April. I think it's the day I go to Vipassana again.
Okay, cool. So yeah, it's a great place to connect and send us questions, and we're most likely to get back to you there. If not, you can reach us on our website, which is www.authenticdatingseries.com.
Cool. And then also you can check out our events, which we talked about at the beginning of the show. But we've got Man Up, that's on the 26th of March. We've got the event we're doing with the Single Boss guys on the 2nd of April. And we've got an event with Taylor Matched on the 8th of April, which is Deeper Dating, which is going to be an awesome speed dating event where we get far deeper than the small talk and people actually get to know each other and actually leave feeling like their hearts are full and they've met someone they can really care about.
Boom. Beautiful.
Deep breath. And yeah, thank you for listening. As always, thank you for sharing. Share this with 1 or 2 people. We'd be deeply grateful for that. It just helps us get our message out to more people. More and more people know how to date and talk to each other and communicate, and it's really just what we want for all our listeners and all the people in the world.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Cool.
Ciao, guys.
Ciao.